That's so dirty. Let's walk through the controls of the Pet Yeti distortion pedal. The Pet Yeti works with all instruments. Of course, it sounds amazing on guitar and bass. But for today, I'm gonna be using a drum machine. So let's turn the Pet Yeti on with just a little bit of distortion. I'll show you the extreme range that this thing is capable of. So just a nice little bit of warm distortion. Let's start with the strength toggle right here. The middle is the low setting. Woo! That's the medium setting. And that's the high setting. This is the level, and this controls the whole sound. So after you've processed the sound, you can turn it all the way down, and this thing gets real loud. Remember, I'm on the medium setting right now for the strength. Wow. Moving on, let's check out the voice setting. So there's 3 voice settings. Right now I'm in the middle, and this is just a wide open frequency response. If you flip this to the left, totally changes the tone. This gives you more mids with asymmetrical hard clipping. It's a little quieter, but you have all this headroom with the level. So just sort of a different tone characteristic. And if you flip it to the right, you get symmetrical hard clipping of germanium diodes. A little warmer, a little fuzzier. Ooh, I love that. That sounds so good. See, I'm already feeling inspired. Now I want to go make some music. This is the tone knob, and this allows you to filter the distorted signal. Sort of like a post-distortion EQ. The shape knob down here determines which frequencies get fed into the distortion. When the dial is straight up at noon, that is a flat response. So when I roll it counterclockwise, you can hear that it reduces the bass and it accents the high end. And on the drum machine, that means that you hear more of the hi-hats and the snare. And then if I roll it clockwise, it accents the low frequencies and rolls off the high frequencies. So for the drum machine, now I don't really hear the hi-hat or the snare that much at all. But all of that will change depending on how much gain you feed into it, which strength setting you're on, whether or not you have the bit crusher on or off. All of these things sort of interact together. Here is the gain knob, and this just determines how much gain you're feeding into the distortion. Ooh, I like that. Down here is the clean knob, and I can actually mix back in my original clean tone from the drums. I want to show you the last feature on this pedal, which is the analog bit crusher. And this has some really interesting interactions. So I'm going to turn my strength to the lowest setting and turn the gain down. And you can hear that the signal is starting to get completely bit crushed into silence. The bit crusher is essentially squashing the bit depth of your signal and turning it into a square wave. So if there's not enough signal going through, you're gonna get stuck in that trough of the square wave, and there's almost no signal coming through at all. But then if you start to crank the gain, signal starts to come back. And you can play around with that with all these different settings. Let's try flipping our voice setting. Signal's gone. If that happens to you, that means you need more gain. Signal's back. And this pedal is made to be extreme. So you have extreme highs, extreme lows. You have all of this space for you to move around in and customize your distortion tone. So let's just play around now that we know what all of these functions do. I love mixing in the clean with the bit crusher. Like, this is a bizarre sound. It's so cool. And then of course, if we slam on the strength, then all that signal is now coming through that bit crusher, and it's totally crunched and delicious. That's so dirty. Wow, this thing is so much fun. And I'm just scratching the surface. Everything interacts differently because this is a fully analog circuit. It is alive, it is wild, and it's a gateway drug to shaping and sculpting noise in the most fun way possible. You can adopt your own Pet Yeti right now at cosmode.io.